This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
Scheduling, dispatching, invoicing, payments, just plain old customer communication. It can almost drown the pool guy unless. And that's where Peter Wasmer, a serial entrepreneur, spotted a unique niche, automating so much of the non-pool stuff for the pool guy. Peter Wasmer joins us for this Biz News interview. Let's start by telling our listeners and our viewers a little bit about yourself and your business.
Okay, thanks. Nice to be with you, Doug. My name is Peter Wasmer, and I'm the CEO and founder of ProValet. ProValet is a platform that democratizes business process automation for small and medium-sized service companies. And I got to this illustrious place on a very crooked path. I started my career in the 90s in equipment leasing, and I provided equipment leasing services to the Fortune 1000, predominantly in the computer area, and then we leased forklifts, machine tools, business materials handling equipment, all kinds of things. But again, predominantly to the larger credit set, and that was a lot of fun. It was a great business, and we did well. And then I was asked to start another leasing company after we sold that one. I was asked to start another leasing company, and this time the investors were interested in leasing Harley Davidsons. So I had a chance to put together a national platform for Harley Davidson motorcycles, pre-owned Harley Davidson motorcycles, all across the country. So our job was to build a system that could facilitate this functionality of a 2, 3, or 4 year, what was really an automobile lease, anywhere in the country. And we grew a heck of a business. And I found out that by and large, the better place to spend our time was not necessarily at the Harley dealer, which is where you would think you would do the business. But business is all about how do we solve a problem. And Harley dealers, even though they had motorcycles there, they're great guys. I really, really enjoyed that whole experience, but they just didn't really need us. They didn't have the problem of financing. They had their own internal finance arm. And so they were able to put transactions together, which satisfied the need to sell the motorcycle and get a rider going. But what we found in that process of building that business, that there were probably 3 to 4 times as many independent motorcycle dealers all across the country. And since we were dealing with pre-owned motorcycles, we didn't really need to be at the Harley dealer themselves because we weren't dealing with new bikes. So we built a system that automated the process of creating the lease. We helped the dealer pull credit. Based upon that credit, they could build a transaction. And when somebody said, yes, let's do that, they could push a button and that would magically create all of the documentation necessary to perfect that lease. So we got it to a point where actually the rider didn't even need to be in the store. Once they got the approval and he said yes, he could be sitting in the cab of his pickup truck in the oil fields in Oklahoma and get an email from DocuSign. He could sign all the documents there in the oil field and hit the dealership on the way back and go pick up his bike. So a very cool process and a great system. Really, really, we had an excellent team that helped me put that together, and it was a lot of fun. We took that to the next level with Fuel. So that was a company called Chrome Capital. And then we morphed that into Fuel Capital. And Fuel Capital approached not only Harley Davidsons, but also Indian motorcycles, all of the Italian bikes, all the Japanese bikes. And then we even added on to there the side-by-sides and what have you. So we were doing authentic vehicle leases for all of these different power sports items all across the country. And they were just an awful lot of fun. And what a great business to be in. I mean, it's all about fun, and really how do we effectively help somebody get get out and enjoy this great country of ours.
You could apply that to one thing after another, it would appear. But I have a question. How did you transition from thinking you were going to be working with Harley Davidson dealers to working with independents? Was there some sort of moment of, oh my gosh, what have we done there?
Yes. So I'm a salesperson. I love salespeople, and I had a salesperson who I really admired, and he really was he beat my door down for 90 days. He said we have to do business with these independent dealers because of course they're out in the field and they talk to the dealerships, and I was really adamant about being um, what I'll say, bleeding orange and black, right? We really wanted to be all in on the Harley brand and really only wanted to do business with the well-established Harley dealers. I didn't really know anything about independent dealers. How stable of companies are they? Are they people that we want to spend time and energy, bringing in and training and showing them how to use the system? And he encouraged me to try just one. And and so I said, okay, let's try one. And within a week, the one dealer had put through more applications than all of the other Harley dealers across the country had in that same week. So the one dealer was beating all of the other Harley Davidson dealers and their activity level. Again, the Harley dealers didn't really need it, so they weren't really using it as vociferously as we had anticipated. But the independent dealers, they had to find financing outside of their three, outside of their four walls, if you will, and we brought it right inside for them. So they could actually they could effectively um, um, you know put through an application and get a deal done within hours, where normally it would take a very long time. Financing motorcycles as a whole is a kind of is a little bit of a tricky business, has been for a lot of years, and it wasn't any different then than it is now. And I think that that solution. Business is all about providing a solution for a problem, and we, by virtue of being in the market, found a niche and found a track, and we were able to run that down pretty hard. So it was really a
Well,
lot of fun.
well, how did you get from motorcycles to where you are now?
Uh, well, I have this I have a penchant for automation. I have a penchant for figuring out systems because I'm not. I had somebody correct me. I'm not inherently lazy. I just don't like to do things more than once. if so, it's not a matter of being lazy. It's a matter of practicality. If we're going to do something more than once, let's create a system for it. Let's create some automation for it that helps us get through the day, compress time. There's a lot more to life than work. And so if we can spend our time and energy building systems that do things automatically for us, then life should be better. And that's what I found in building the systems for the motorcycle leasing companies, that we were actually able to do things that people could only imagine. And as it turns out, coming from the outside of that industry was one of the biggest benefits because I didn't have any rules that we don't do it that way, or it's never been done that way. I didn't have any of that. I just had a blank sheet of paper, so I was able to design things that if I was going to do it, I think this is the way I would want it to happen. And lo and behold, it actually turned out to be a pretty clear straight arrow from point A, which is where you have a guy that walks in the door, to point Z, where he walks out with the bike and he's happy. I mean, there was so much friction in that process that when we came in with our system, we annihilated a lot of that friction. And so it was a very positive experience. And so I was done with those businesses. Hired a CEO to come in and take that over, and then that company has actually gone on to merge with an auto finance company. So I'm happy about that. This next project, Pro Valet, came about because I actually had a personal problem. Um, you know, Not a problem that a lot of people have, but enough of us have it where I thought there might be a need for a solution. We just talked about the fact that you're up in Sarasota and I'm down in Naples, Florida. I have a pool. Maybe you have a pool. Um, but I don't maintain my pool. I hire somebody to come and do it because they're way better at it than I am, and they know more about pool chemistry and how to deal with things than I ever possibly could want to know about. So I relied on this company for a long time, and we had redone our pool every 20 years. If you live in a house long enough and you've been there for 20 years, you probably have to go through a redo of your pool. So we had to do a redo on the pool. About 90 days after we did this, we had changed out the electronics and all of the tile and all that kind of good stuff. 90 days later, I'm walking around the pool around 10 o'clock at night. I'm trying to figure out what my next project's going to be, and the light is out. And now I bought these really nice, expensive LED lights because they were new and really fancy, and it was out. And I thought, well, maybe there's something wrong with the electronics. I checked all that, not so. So I called and left a message for the pool service company. And again, I just left a voicemail, and I didn't really think too much about it. 30 days later, I'm walking around the pool again, and the light's on. I'm like, oh, well, maybe the timer fixed, or I didn't know. I didn't really think too much about it until I went to the mailbox the next day and pulled out a big fat invoice. And the pool company, they did get my message, but they did not communicate with me. They didn't give me the options of how do we want to fix this or product options. I didn't know anything about pricing. I didn't know anything about, I didn't even, I just had, I knew nothing. So I said, this can be fixed. And I'm a big fan of Uber. So I thought if I had an app that worked like Uber, I could probably have a better long-term relationship with my service company. And having come from a history of uh, triangulated relationships, that is a typical relationship is binary. It's a two-way street. I want to buy something, you want to sell something, I give you money, you give me the item. In leasing, there's three parties, right? You have the user who's going to pay you a lease, you have us who's going to finance it, and then you have the vendor who's going to sell it. And so you have this three-way agreement. And so I was kind of used to these triangulated relationships, and I thought to myself, if I could put together a platform where a company, the service company, had a direct line to their customers, maybe there's a better way to run that business where not only do you inform the customer about what's happening, but the customer can also communicate directly with you about what's happening. So we built ProValet, and it's a field service software platform, and that simply means that a pool service company employs us as it's a SaaS platform, so it's a subscription, and we go in and we automate all of their business processes. We automate their scheduling. We have immediate dispatch. We automate their invoicing. We automate their customer payment collections, and we automate the customer communications. So in the same way that if you've ever used Uber and you know how comforting it is to make the call, I need a car. You get a communication back saying somebody's on their way. They're 4 minutes away. This is the car. This is the driver. All of the expectations are set for you. Makes you feel very good. It makes you trust this tool called Uber. So that's the same philosophy we've employed with ProValet. So we have an admin panel where a company will replicate their business. However they run their business, the system is infinitely flexible to allow them to build their business inside of ProValet the way that they want it. We have a technician app, which is a mobile interface for automated routes. So he'll get his dispatch for the day every morning. He opens it up. He'll get an automated list of all of the service areas, service addresses, service stops that he has to go to. They'll be set in a route optimized way from where he's standing. So he'll get through his day better and faster. And then we have the really unique aspect of ProValet is we have a homeowner app. So as a homeowner, you would have an app, and when your technician checks in for his job, which they have to do in order to start the job, you would get a notification. No matter where you are, if you're traveling or you're in the bathroom or wherever, you're going to get a notification that says, "Hey, somebody's on your property." You know, uh, the service has started. And then when the service is done, you'll get another notification that tells you the same thing. If there's an invoice that goes along with it, or even your monthly invoices, those pop up and there's a little notification that says you have an invoice from ABC Pool Co. You can open it up, you can look at it, you can review it, you can pay it with your thumb. Um, you can actually look inside the consumer inside the homeowner app, and you can see all of your history of all of your previous services, all of your invoices. But the most important thing that you can do is you can be heard by your service company. So the frustrating thing I had was I wasn't heard, or at least I didn't think I was heard. And I'm out looking for somebody else because those people aren't listening to me. I have a problem and it's not getting solved. Well, with Pro Valet and the homeowner app, a consumer can simply touch a button, type up a description, and then actually open up a facility that takes a video of whatever that problem is. So, uh, you know, my pump is making a funny noise. Here's a video. And when they hit submit, that lands on the dashboard for the service company to handle immediately. It's an immediately actionable request for service. And when they do actually open it up, there's a notification that goes to the customer that says, "Hey, we got your request. We're looking at it now." And when that request gets scheduled, they'll get another notification telling them that when it is scheduled to be handled. So, and there's also an estimate feature. So if it's a bigger job, they could send an estimate based upon that request. So we've taken uh, the universal experience of a service company, and we put it into a very smooth flywheel of operating that allows for a company to run their business as smoothly as they could possibly imagine without doing a lot of manual work. Their customers are really happy because they have been heard, and they also have the ongoing information about what's happening with their business. So we have this full cycle communication tool, and it's really kind of how I refer to it. It's really more, I mean, it's functionally important from a business process perspective. And it does a beautiful job of invoicing for people. I mean, the automation behind invoicing is really something. Most people say, "Oh, I have QuickBooks and it's automated that way." Not necessarily. I mean, if you have a job that is maybe not part of your regular monthly invoicing, but requires billing, with our system, you can actually set it up so that it will create the invoice immediately after that service and get sent automatically to the customer. So
One of, so Peter, one of the things you touched on, and I kept thinking as you were describing what you're doing, is you are a communications company.
in many ways, yes, we are. And when we think about it, the single the single link in trust that you can always point to is communicating. So if we communicate better, if companies who use ProValet communicate better, they'll build higher trust with their customers, and their customer retention rates go through the roof. And this is what we found. I have a guy here in town who actually just took us up on adopting ProValet, and he told me that the homeowner app is the closing bell with every one of his new customers. He's picking up new customers left and right. And when they talk about how the company operates, he says, "And look, I'm going to give you a free homeowner app so you know everything that's happening with your pool." People go, "Sold." I mean, it is de facto the winning combination when it comes to how service companies really need to operate. And I say that knowing that a lot of the appointment-driven businesses are already using great companies like Service Titan and Jobber and a couple of other big platforms, which do a nice job of communicating for those single one-off appointment-driven events. And in particular, the ones where somebody has to come behind the front door. So in your case of an HVAC or electric or plumbing problem, they have these great tools that communicate through text that, "Hey, bill is on the way," and what have you. And so I really respect those. The challenge where that is not necessarily applicable is in these regular interval service businesses. And this is where we've really differentiated service businesses. When I first came in, again, I had a blank sheet of paper, so I was just doing some observational work looking at service businesses as a whole. And it dawned on me that a regular interval service business is a very different relationship than dealing with an acute problem like your water heater blows up, right? So this is somebody who you have a relationship with. It's like a subscription, and so it needs to be managed that way. And if we communicate clearly and effectively, consistently, our trust levels continue to go up. And by the way, the referrals are off the charts. So people who have ProValet as a homeowner, they're bragging to their friends about it.
Peter, where can people get more information about your company? I suspect you have a website.
I do. Yes, indeed. So you can go to www.provalet.io. And I'd love an opportunity to talk with any of your listeners, whether they're a homeowner or if they're a service business. The interesting thing about ProValet is, although we're working with a lot of pool service businesses, the platform is agnostic. It doesn't really care if you're a pool service business, lawn care, home cleaning, home watch, pest control. If you have a service where you deliver it on a regular day in and day out basis, and you're running routes, this is the platform you should be looking at.
And Peter, what would you like to add that we have not had a chance to talk about? Perhaps advice to somebody hoping to get into a small business. What would you suggest from your experience?
Well, there's two ways of getting into a small business. You can buy one, which is actually a really smart thing to do. If you feel like you want to operate a business, that is probably one of the better ways to get into any kind of a business today is to actually go acquire a small business. What I'm doing right now is a complete startup, ground up startup, is grueling, very high risk endeavor. But if you're driven by that, just start it. Just get going. There's no point in waiting. So that's my advice. Don't wait. Goethe has a saying about what is it? Starting something has magic power and energy in it, or something along those lines. I can't remember the exact phrase, but it's something that I live with every day. It's like, there's something new to be uncovered every single day in what we're doing, and it's a lot of fun, but it is very risky.
You've been listening to the Bizgnus Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@bizgnus.com. That's BIZGNUS.com. Thanks for listening.